Hello, welcome to the Big Box PC Gamers Hangout for, what is today, April the 5th. Today we have a few topics to discuss. Arguments for or against sealed games in our collections. And how do you feel about the recent trend for reboots and sequels? Also, we're going to have a show and tell. Two show and tells actually, but the first one will be based on boxed games with full motion video gameplay and or movie stars in them. So without further ado, I guess we should jump right into our first show and tell, and we'll just introduce ourselves whenever we do our show and tell. So who wants to go first? I think Joe wants to go first because look at him. He's just done.
I had the same impression.
And I think I have a horrible delay on my voice, but welcome everybody. I'm happy to see everybody here once again on this beautiful Easter Sunday. But I got something to show you. I'm showing you what I'm showing you right now is exactly what I'm wearing. This is an actual uniform from the full motion video Wing Commander 4.
Wow.
This is the uniform of one of the pilots from the actual game, and the game itself is here. This is Wing Commander 4: The Price of Freedom.
Has Mark Hamill wear this sweet suit, Joe?
No, this suit does not belong to Mark Hamill. I wish it did.
Oh, too bad.
As a matter of fact, that uniform is actually in the Planet Hollywood in California, along with Dr. McDowell's. They donated those to them. No, this is just the standard. This is a standard uniform for one of the backup people to wear, and this is a helmet of the evil Black Lance, the bad guys in the film. I decided to do a show and tell. I mean, I'm in my wheelbase right now with the full motion videos because, as everybody knows, Origin was one of the best companies to do exactly that. So.
No, it was Sierra, but please continue.
Sierra as well. You're right. Which I think is a fantastic segue to hand the ball over to you.
Yeah, hi guys. Pascal from Germany. Still collecting big box games, mostly adventure games. And for today's show and tell, full motion video games, I think I start with these two. This is Phantasmagoria 1 and Phantasmagoria 2, Puzzle of Flesh. These are the US versions of those games, and I really enjoyed them a lot, to be honest. Because I like horror movies. I watched a lot of horror movies back then, and Phantasmagoria was really a nice gore one with a lot of gore effects and shocking moments. I really enjoyed that one a lot. Yeah.
How heavy was Roberta Williams' involvement in those games? Because I know she's more commonly associated with point-and-click Sierra titles like King's Quest.
Oh, she was heavily. I mean, the Phantasmagoria 1 actually is named Roberta Williams Phantasmagoria, so she was heavily involved in the first one. I'm not really 100% sure about the second one. Had to look into the credits. I guess there was a change of direction or so. But the first one, it was definitely her, and she was really heavily involved in that one. Yeah. It was not Sierra's first, I guess. They started, I mean, Phantasmagoria was like 95 or so, and as we know, FMV games started much earlier, no? It's like about the 90s when it came to PCs. But
to segue though, and please continue after my interruption. Phantasmagoria was very much sort of a response to The Seventh Guest, which is what I have to talk about, wasn't it? Or was it parallel development?
I guess Seventh Guest was earlier, I guess, wasn't it?
It was. It was definitely
93 or something. What was it?
Yeah. The Seventh Guest. This is well, I got this in Europe, so and it seems I think it's the UK edition. Slightly tatty dust jacket, which was really prone to damage, which at least lets you see the beautiful book effect. But yeah, this was released in 1993, and this special edition came with a lovely inlay.
Beautiful.
And
Wow.
this version from Virgin Interactive, you then had the CD mounted there, and trying not to break the box behind the door, you had the oh so classy VHS, which showed the making of the Seventh Guest. And once you'd got out that, you had this rather disturbing piece of inner art. I also have with this this, which is the Seventh Guest patch disc. And here's the letter that came with my Seventh Guest patch disc. Please find and enclose the new second disc for the Seventh Guest to make the game compatible with S3 video cards. If you are still experiencing any form of screen corruption or you don't receive a picture, attempt to run the software in MCGA mode, as we've been advised by Trilobite that certain cards with the S3 chip will only display in this mode. I would like to take this opportunity to forward Virgin's deepest apologies for the time it's taken to produce this upgrade, and for all the inconvenience you've been put through waiting for this CD. Yours faithfully, Kevin Turner, Customer Services Manager, Virgin Interactive, not even signed. I'd have loved to have had Kevin Turner's signature. He's my hero. Yeah. The Seventh Guest is actually quite interesting as far as FMV games go, in that I actually like it, which is rare for me and FMV games. I generally thought they were something of a travesty. But it was also interesting structurally because the way it used video to interconnect puzzles, and I think in that way it's very much a precursor of the sort of Professor Layton style puzzle games that are hugely popular now. There were some interesting things about its production. For example, they originally planned to use some fairly modern puzzles, but due to the fact that there's actually really vicious copyright law in protecting puzzles, they had to go all the way back to puzzles from the 1800s to ensure that they weren't trying to use something that might already be copyrighted. So that is my tidbit about the Seventh Guest. It was followed by the 11th Hour, which I have not played, and I know it's weird because I did really enjoy the Seventh Guest. And there was also a hugely unsuccessful additional sequel called Uncle Henry's Playhouse, which combined a handful of puzzles from the Seventh Guest, a handful of puzzles from the 11th Hour, and some puzzle sequences from other games. And Uncle Henry's Playhouse is famous for, in its US edition, selling just a total of 27 copies. So that's mine. And I realise I forgot to introduce myself. I'm KG. I'm a mostly reformed video games journalist.
Funny, Seventh Guest is probably one of my favorite games of all time. And once that game came out, I remember it was, I think, and I could be wrong on this, the first game to come out on more than one CD. And that was like an unthinkable thing at the time, that any game could possibly be that massively huge. So it started this sort of race at the time to stuff a game on as many CDs as possible with companies. Like all of a sudden, they put a sticker on the front of the box. Phantasmagoria may have had one, I'm not sure. That said something like on 9 CDs, or packed on 16 CDs or whatever. It was kind of a fun time to be playing those type of games. But my game is in a similar vein to Pascal's. I'm Joel, by the way. I'm the founder of the Facebook group that we're all members of, and I live in Western North Carolina. I brought Gabriel Knight 2, The Beast Within, which is probably one of my favorite adventure games of all time. I played this in college. Buddy of mine, my roommate, and I'll have a little story to tell, but I'll preface this with their story spoilers, so if you think you're going to play this, you may want to mute me because in order to tell the story, I have to reveal a major plot point. But anyway, me and my roommate were playing this game when we were supposed to be doing homework religiously in college. And the game starts as sort of a basic kind of mystery role-playing game. And, you know, then there's this one moment about 3/4 of the way in where it really hits you in the stomach and hits you with some really gory sort of dead body kind of stuff. And me and my roommate were so freaked out at it because we were so into the game that we had to shut it off and go take a walk around campus because it had freaked us out so much. But if you haven't played this game, definitely pick it up. It's one of the greatest, in my opinion, probably the very greatest of the entire full motion video realm. This is not my original copy because, like an idiot, I threw away the box, but I've since replaced it. And you'll see that it does have a on 6 CD sticker on the front because that was a big selling point back then for some reason. But that's my game, Gabriel Knight 2.
I definitely agree on that is one of the best FMV titles ever released, because I think there are more bad examples for full motion video games than good ones, because I guess they really lack, you know, what's criticized most about full motion video games, that you're limited in interaction and stuff like interactivity and stuff like that. So the games are not that complex puzzle-wise or so, but Gabriel Knight 2 was completely different. I think it was very well done. It was, you know, good actor somehow. It was great puzzles. It has a great story. I really enjoyed it a lot and still do, and it's still playable. No? It's still enjoyable. Really.
I'd say the only
Tex Murphy fan
close to probably its equal would have to be Wing Commander 3. If you had Sierra and Origin on a parallel track, I'd say Wing Commander 3 is about on the same level as Gabriel Knight, but Gabriel Knight edges it out for me personally as probably the greatest.
Totally agree. And that is, KG, I guess you mentioned Tex Murphy, right? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, I know you're a fan. You're a fan of the series. I actually have very ambivalent feelings about it because I don't like the sort of, what some people love about it is that dissonance between the humour and the slapstick and the occasional surrealism and the noir setting, and that's exactly what I find grates against me. I particularly found that when I was reviewing Tesla Effect, which is kind of what reminded me of my ambivalence towards the Tex Murphy games in general. I can't argue with the sort of fun value and skill, but yeah, that distance doesn't really work for me. But I think it does work for you.
It does, Tex Murphy. If you're talking about the humor in Tex Murphy, it definitely does. And I think the last one was a great example that it still works today. I mean, the last Tex Murphy game was great. It was not so great technology-wise. That you saw that they were really limited with money and technology or so. But the story was still Tex Murphy-like. The humor was great. It was playable. I really enjoyed that one. So FMV is still a topic. Well, but talking about Seventh
I like the fact that it worked. I like the fact that it had the Tesla Effect. They actually used 2K video, because I'm one of those assholes who actually has a 2K screen, and I really appreciated having the Ultra HD video quality, even though they were limited on their production budget.
Right.
It's the thing that makes it hardest to go back and play even the best of the Golden Age FMV games is you will be stuck with tiny video windows frequently.
Which makes it wonderful that a lot of the fans have actually gotten together and worked out those types of details. There was a DVD version of Wing Commander 4 that was only available when you bought a specific type of video card. The Wing Commander fans went ridiculously out of their way to adapt all of that high-definition video to the original game, so you can actually get on fan sites as well as GOG.com and download the DVD version of Wing Commander 4 for a very small amount. As a matter of fact, one of the guys actually did Wing Commander Prophecy DVD, which was never released. They actually found the film footage adapted it and got it to work in Wing Commander Prophecy, so you can get a DVD version of the last 2 games.
That is nice. I still have some mixed feelings about Seven's Guest. I mean, remembering back then, it definitely was a great game technology-wise. I was really blasted, like Joel said. It was I guess it was the first game, or it said it was the first game that came on 2 CDs, and that stuff was awesome. And technology-wise, the video quality and that on PC back then was really nice to look at. But gameplay-wise, puzzle-wise, I think it was not really so. It really was. The puzzles were challenging, but if you stuck at a puzzle or so, that was really something which I was not able to deal with back then. And the story was nice, the setting was nice, but the game elements were a little bit. And I think this is something you see today. The question I have is if some sort of game still works today, and they tried to Kickstarter Seven's Guest Part 3, and they failed due to a lot of reasons, but the main reason I think is you have the kind of gameplay in app games, in iOS apps or so for like $1 or $2, that kind of puzzle games. So nobody will really give you again the budget for a full complete game which has some puzzles in it, I guess. Not sure.
I think they marketed their Kickstarter quite badly, because I probably would have gone for that, and I didn't know about it. I think that it was an interactive movie that strung together a bunch of puzzles. As I say, that has subsequently birthed the genre, and I've whiled away many otherwise unhappy commuter journeys playing Professor Layton games and so on. So I think there is still a place for a bunch of puzzles strung together with a vague narrative. I don't think it necessarily needs to be a filmic narrative, and that does, although at least you don't have the kind of limitations when it's a way of stringing together some puzzles. You don't have the limitations of trying to have adventure game style puzzle solving in it, which is where a lot of FMV games felt like they were horribly on rails. I mean, we've named the good ones, but there were a lot of very bad ones. Not that I think of any offhand.
For example, the horrible one is the 11th Hour itself, which I said that I really liked the Seventh Guest, but probably one of the biggest factors against his Kickstarter that he tried to start was the fact that 11th Hour was so bad. And it was like a horrible movie, and it was a retread of the Seventh Guest, and you had to sit through these really long, terribly acted cutscenes, and I think it was like that was a game that just killed that entire franchise if they wanted it to be a franchise.
I think something that's quite interesting when it is that the way star power was drawn to games. Because I mean, Tim Curry started doing a lot of voice acting at around the point we started getting getting talkie games and FMV games. And I haven't got this running yet. I've just got a Win97 virtual machine that I'm hoping will set up. That I'm hoping will get it running. But I've got this, which is Frankenstein Through the Eyes of the Monster, which is quite obviously going to have Tim Curry chewing the scenery, which is never a bad thing in my book. Yeah. Tim Curry chewing scenery, can't go wrong. And I got this in a batch I did a trade for with one of our members, and nothing hugely bad.
Sorry to interrupt you, KJ, but
yeah.
That is some good one for our later discussion point about remakes and so, because if I think about Gabriel Knight and Tim Curry, so there's no chance that you can have that in a remake.
That was going to be one of the remakes I was going to talk about. We're going to have to fight for this one. But, yeah.
So is that Frankenstein, is it a good game? Have you actually played it?
No, I was saying I think I've just got a virtual machine set up that will play it, but it was in that really awful Windows 95 era, which is, I mean, the hardest things to play are sort of Windows 95 through Windows ME games. If it had NT compatibility, you're much better off. But yeah, so, and you can tell this is going to be a quality product because they basically are shifting a lot on Tim Curry's star power here. Tim Curry of Rocky Horror Picture Show and Congo fame, stars in this classic. Oh God, yeah, this is horribly punctuated. stars in this classic monster tale reborn with a wicked twist. You are the monster. Now that's what I call a wicked twist. Does Pascal...
It's not really a twist if they give it away on the back of the box, is it?
No, it is a wicked twist. Wicked twist. I will report back on my progress with it in the future.
Well, that's probably a good spot to get started on our next topic of discussion. Arguments for or against sealed games in our collection. What do you guys think about sealed games? I know several of us own sealed games, and I am usually I have a hard time opening a sealed game for multiple reasons. Mostly because there's other avenues to play the games. So in order to play the game, I don't really feel the need to have to open it. And the other thing is throughout time, as long as this game exists in a sealed state, I know that everything that needs to be inside that box is in the box. Like nothing has flown away and gotten lost. So usually, unless it's something I'm just dying to play, I'll usually keep my games sealed. What do you guys think?
I completely agree with you, Joel. Beyond measure. I try to keep a sealed copy and an open copy of every game that I have whenever I can. There are a few that I don't have sealed copies just because they're so ridiculously hard to get. But you nailed exactly the way I feel about it. If the box is sealed, I know for a fact that everything that's supposed to be in that box is in there. And there's something about having that new store quality on your shelf to say, this is exactly the way it was the day I walked into Electronics Boutique or Babbage's or any of those old game places that you go to. Egghead, my gosh. I almost lived in Egghead software for about a year. But, yeah, I totally agree with you.
I respectfully disagree. This is partly because I mostly have games that I bought new and then unwrapped and played, or played for 5 minutes and was hideously disappointed by. But most of the games I actually have are ones I was dedicated to. I still, whenever I play an Ultima, I go to my copy of Ultima 6 and I get out my Orb of the Moons and I have it with me when I'm playing. I use the feelies. The feelies are very much a part of my gameplay experience, and even if I have a copy on GOG, it doesn't. Having PDFs and so on does not replace having those feelies in particular. And if you're into second-hand games, for example, the SSI AD&D games, I think there have been some nice copies of the manuals done, although I've yet to see a proper re-release. Them and Wasteland and so on depend on the manual for you to get your plot. So sometimes feelies are actually essential for playing the game. Also, I've got an example here. It's the only sealed game I own. I'm sorry, I know we're the big box group, and this is an NES game, but I don't. I saw it about 10 years ago when a shop was closing down, and the wrapping can deform boxes. So this is a sealed copy of Maniac Mansion for the NES. I hate this game. I don't really collect Nintendo. I've just ended up with this, and I can't quite bring myself to open it. But here you can see how the box is starting to deform due to the pressure of the wrapping. And that is a problem with particularly flimsier boxes if you keep them sealed. I'm sure this is of great value to someone, and part of the trouble I have with is this should go to someone who properly collects these, either a Lucas collector or a Nintendo collector. It doesn't belong with me, who, while it's a useful example, I place relatively little value on it. But anyway, that's why I think sealed games are really nice in that you can, for the fact that you can open them and be sure that when you get them and be sure that you have all the stuff. But keeping stuff sealed, no, I try and look after my games in terms of temperature control and keeping them clean and so on. But I'm not hugely into keeping them sealed. Toys are to be played with.
My wife will tell you that I have sort of a psychosis when it comes to packaging of things. I collect a lot of things. I collect a lot of things other than just big box PC games. I collect action figures. I collect comic books. I collect Star Wars memorabilia. I collect it all, right? And I just, as a graphic designer who I work on packaging a lot in my job, so I have this special attachment with graphics on packaging and boxes and neat boxes and stuff, and there's just something about having the shrink wrap on that box to me that just accentuates the coolness of that package. And it's like it's shiny, it keeps it protected. You know, the sealed boxes don't typically get scratched up as much. I don't know. Maybe it's just a weird me thing that I just love boxes and packaging so much. But if I can play the game in another way, then I'm fine just leaving it sealed most of the time.
So what do you think, Pascal?
I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that. I'm not so into sealed games at all. I mean, it is nice to have sealed games somehow, but I'm a bit on. In my perfect collector universum where only my rules apply, I would have, of course, both. So I would have a sealed copy and an open copy of each game I have in my collection. This would be the maximum out for me, I guess. But in the real world, where we have to decide space-wise and money-wise, I'm not so crazy about sealed at all. First of all, prices are insane. No? If you try to collect every sealed game, if you start today and try to collect games and looking into sealed ones, it would kill you. It's insane how prices have increased there. And that is the one thing. And the other thing is I like to open the games and look into the stuff. I like to try the floppies if they're still working on my old system. I like to install the games. I like to go through the manuals, especially as you know, I'm deeply into Sierra. Sierra has so many inserts, documents, needful stuff and not so needful stuff and funny stuff and pictures and references and editions whatsoever, and I like to go through all that kind of stuff, and it means more to me than having a sealed one in my shelf. I can put it out and show you and say, hey, look at that, I have a still sealed box of whatever, but I'm not so into, how to say, I don't care what others think of my collection. It's my collection and my games, and I like to use them, like to open them, go through them, remember something. If I see something on a new game and say, hey, I have seen something so familiar like that, what was it? And I go through my old boxes and find a game where some familiar happened before, and so I like that kind of stuff. So I guess I would prefer open ones before sealed ones. But there are some expectations, some games I have in my collection, especially with Sierra. The boxes were not sure if they're not very well made or so, but take Quest for Glory 4, Shadows of Darkness as an example. I love the Quest for Glory 4 box. And the thing is, you're not able to find a box in good condition. This box has so many shelfware all the time if you find it. It was, I do not know why, but if you find it, it's always in bad condition. So having a sealed one of that, so the box is really as it should be, that would be a very nice addition, and I would looking forward to that one.
It was really kind of flimsy, the cardboard it was made of compared to the other types. It was like all out of sleeve cardboard.
Exactly. And that would something where I say, okay, the sealed games at that point make sense. Or some of the games I really liked a lot, so my favorite games, I'm somehow try to find a sealed one for that as well. But in majority, I don't care that much. I like to have the games, but I like to open them and look to the content and read some menus.
I definitely don't like seek out sealed games. Like whenever I'm shopping around on eBay or looking around, I don't just search for new sealed stuff. I consider it like a bonus. Like if I'm gonna buy a game, I've gotten burned so many times on like every little piece of ephemera not being in the box. If I can find one that I can confirm is a new sealed game, then I'll, for a good price, or even if it's a little more, the little more cost is like me paying for peace of mind of knowing that I'm getting a complete copy of the game. Which brings up another point, which is how do you know, and me and Joe have talked about this before, how do you know if a game that you're buying is actually sealed or if it's resealed with shrink wrap? And I have an example here of a game that I bought that I can confirm is actually sealed because sometimes there's tells. This is a sealed copy of Vibe Holder 2 that I know is real because I bought it in a store myself. So, and you'll see this weird shaped sticker down here that shows up on all these games. I bought a sealed copy of Vibe Holder 3 on eBay recently, and I think you can see it, but there's a haze on the box that's the same shape as that weird sticker. I don't know if you can see that haze right there, where that sticker fell off. So I know that this is real because that sticker was on here at one point. So there are little tells. I like sealed games that have little holes torn in them because it means it's probably a little older than if it was just newly pristinely shrink wrapped. But definitely, I'm very wary of any shrink wrap game I see on eBay because you know, there's no telling if it's real or not.
Yeah, I've been eyeing up a shrink-wrapped copy of Ogre from that a seller in Germany has, and its shrink-wrap looks a bit wrong to me. It looks like it's a complete game, and it's a good price. If they were just selling it as an open game with all the stuff they say is in it, then I would have gone for it quite sharpish. But it's that re-shrink wrapping that actually puts me off another game that I would otherwise go for, which is quite strange.
I don't know. I have a few games that are sealed. I just it's not something that I really seek out. It's just kind of a nice little bonus, you know.
I mean, what I really like today is if you buy a game today, you easily get the digital version as well. So sometimes you get both, especially if you talk about Kickstarter. So all these projects have digital versions. If they offer a boxed version as an additional bonus or patch level or so, you definitely have the digital one. So for that kind, I keep the version sealed as well. You know, the boxed games I buy today in Germany, I mostly keep them sealed as well, because you get the digital one, or you get it later on GOG or on a Steam sale or whatever.
Feelies.
Excuse me?
But what about the feelies?
Yeah, that is another thing. That is, I guess, it's an own topic because there's still so nice inserts today as back then. I mean, if we talk about game releases like where do I have them? Normal DVDs. I mean, today you can be happy if your DVD is in a cardboard box still, né? But normally you get this not so nice DVD cases, and what's in it? A manual and maybe a poster and maybe a soundtrack CD, and that's it. I mean, there's not much space left to put something.
Admittedly, I am thinking of sort of Kickstarters that have promised big boxes. Wasteland came with some stuff, didn't it?
Right.
Wasteland 2, rather. I didn't have that level of Kickstartering.
I mean, especially for adventure games, you have, I put that out of my shelf here, Memoria, the collector's edition. I mean, there's a lot of additional stuff inside that one as well, but I keep those sealed too. So days I buy today, I keep them sealed, but I don't care for the old ones, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, I think we can safely move on into our second show and tell, which is a free choice. So, whatever you want to show. Anyone want to go first?
My turn.
Go for it, Joe.
I think I'm going to go first again and talk to you guys about another full motion video series. And this was called Crusader. No
Yeah,
remorse.
yeah.
In my sealed version, of course. This one was $9.99. Must have been on super sale. But this is another Origin title with the full motion video things, starring a bunch of relatively unknown actors, but was still filmed in Hollywood. And for show and tell, this is the game box, obviously, but I wanted to do something a little bit different and see if I can pull something off here. Let me see if I can try this. Give me just a second here.
Oh, you're sharing your screen?
So, have you made up your mind? Is this what you want? Huh?
That was a character called Weasel. Am I back on?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. That was a character by a young man by the name of Mr. Craig Panetta, I think, who that is the character that sells you weapons and things like that. But I have over here, I have the actual costume that Weasel wore in the Crusader No Remorse game.
Of course.
So I thought that was really, really cool. I'm holding on to that.
Wow.
Now, will these things be worth anything in the future? I sincerely doubt it. But for the
They're meaningful to people like us.
Exactly. For people like us, it's just really, really cool that, you know, nobody knew it was on the back of Weasel's jacket. I think this was supposed to be some kind of little creature that he had resting on his shoulder. I don't know. But also, in honor of Crusader No Remorse, I wanted to, let's see if I can pull this screen share nonsense one more time and see if I can do the whole screen this time. And I'll minimize that and show you an image here. And everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
That is Major Vargas. That's the evil bad guy, the double agent at the end of the game that you basically have to beat in order to win the game. But what I wanted to show you was that behind me, you can see Major Vargas's costume that I have on a wonderful little stuffed mannequin that I got from the game, that I got for just this kind of thing. But I think it's really neat that all this stuff still survives, and this is a donation from an old Origin guy that basically said, if you pay the shipping, I'll send you some stuff. And I said, what kind of stuff? He said, I don't know, it's just a couple of boxes. So this was the kind of stuff that was in it, and I thought that was really cool. And I'm holding on to it.
That is awesome. I
don't think any of us are going to beat that.
I really, really enjoyed the games a lot. Both of them.
They were built on the Ultima 8 engine, actually.
I wanted to ask you that question, if you knew. I know that you knew it, but I wanted to ask you if you know on which Ultima engine it was based.
That's what they say.
Ooh.
They say it was built on Ultima 8.
And
I have a pitch document here. As you know, I picked when a friend of mine wrote an article about Origin pitch documents. I found among them one which was obviously a precursor to the Crusader games. So sorry for butting in. I seem to keep doing this to you, Pascal. So I'm just going to read out this whole pitch document. It's short. Game title: Sci-Fi, IBM PC, Why Origin, High Concept, an Ultima 8 technology game with even less emphasis on role-playing and more emphasis on arcade-style puzzle-solving action. Why is this an Origin product? Assuming we think it's a viable project for any reason other than the trademark, this should be a sure thing. It's got the same kind of graphic and gameplay as in a proven genre, no funky SF or pulp adventure this time, just good old-fashioned science fiction. Product overview. Imagine Prince of Persia or Degeneration on a space station on the surface of another planet. There's no design here yet, obviously, but reusing the Ultima technology without a Ultima trademark or any connection to the Ultima Universal storyline in a science fiction setting seems like a natural. Technical overview: PC 486, 4 megs RAM, 320 by 200 VGA, full soundboard support, mouse, joystick, keyboard. Audience: the traditional Origin audience expanded to reach fans of more action-oriented games like Prince of Persia 1 and 2. Deal: 250,000 to 350,000 budget depending on size and scope. Planned ship in depending upon resources and state of U8 code. Risks: medium to high. It'd be a tight deadline. No experienced resources would likely be available. The code isn't finished, and there's no telling what it would be. The product is potentially a simple one, but a lot of unknowns and necessarily short timeline increase the risk. From a marketing standpoint, you have to wonder whether the failure of the Worlds of Ultima line is cause for concern here. Status: looking for concept approval so we can go for script. Now, that came out of a batch of stuff that wasn't approved, although presumably that pitch was reworked to eventually result in the Crusader games, which is something I find quite interesting.
It sounds like that to me, for sure. Does it have a name of the person that did the pitch?
Sadly not. Hang on, let me have a look at the actual pitch document. I've got a JPEG copy of it that my friend sent me. Absolutely no name. My friend asked Warren Spector, and he was pretty vague about it too. I'll paste this into the comments, and I'll put it in, and I'll comment it on the YouTube link as well.
Wonderful. Where did it come from?
This came from the University of Texas archive that Spector and Garrett donated so much stuff to. My friend and former colleague Joe Martin requisitioned a load of pieces to do with a series of video game history articles he's writing, and kindly let me have the scraps.
That's incredible.
I think he actually missed out the most interesting pieces in writing this article, but obviously his perspective is quite different from mine. Hopefully I'll be able to talk him into coming in here and maybe doing a piece about the hidden history of Deus Ex or something, which he's an expert on.
That would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. I think I'll go next with my show off with a game, if you want to call it a game, that is probably the most important game in my life in a way, and it is the World of Warcraft Collector's Edition, which I pre-ordered before it came out. There aren't many of these around. I love these because as a designer, Blizzard did something really clever with these, and this game's been going now for 10 years. It's been going for 10 or plus years, I guess. And I've sunk probably more hours into World of Warcraft than any other game I've ever played. This is the initial release, and I'll try to go through these in order. But what they did that was so clever is they stuck with a very consistent design style. So the game boxes are all the same size. They have a color variation to them that is usually relevant to the expansion pack. So the Burning Crusade had a very green kind of style to it, this is the first expansion pack. And then we had Wrath of the Lich King, which was the second expansion pack, I believe. The second expansion pack, which was the one with Arthas and all that stuff from 3, and is like a frozen place, so of course they went with a blue theme. And then the next expansion pack was Cataclysm, which has a very black kind of theme. This is the one where they broke the world and changed up the entire landscape of the original world. This is kind of considered by most gamers, WoW players, to be the worst of the expansion packs. Then they went on to, this is the Pandaria one, which is arguably the second worst one. Well, some people like this one. I just wasn't really feeling the Pandaland kind of stuff. but it has like an Asian theme to it. The box is beautiful on this one for sure. And then Blizzard has finally come back to form with Warlords of Draenor, which is kind of goes back to their Warcraft roots. But as big box games, these boxes are just absolutely beautiful on the shelf, especially if you have all of them. And they're all chock full of the standard Blizzard goodies like DVDs with their excellent videos that they produce, and soundtrack CDs, and mouse pads and art books and all the standard stuff that Blizzard games have. But having every one of these is an important thing to me, and I love having them, and I'm still playing the game to this day. My wife's actually playing World of Warcraft.
How many hours, Joel, how many hours have you played World of Warcraft so far?
Let's see. Heather, do slash play. Hey, Heather. I've played at least 165 days of real time.
Wow.
My friend Ryan is a guild leader in the guild that we're in, and he's played over 300 days of real time in World of Warcraft. So he's double what mine is. But Heather's got her earphones on. What's your slash played?
Oh God, it's embarrassing.
You don't gotta give it to me.
Or just
Grizza.
Just Grizza?
Yeah.
Oh well, I'm on Grizzy.
Oh, never mind.
I checked Flynn and Grizza together, my two big characters, in
Yeah.
a year.
1 year for life. Yeah, 300 and some odd days.
Wow.
Zapped by World of Warcraft. I guess the warning I give you is stay away, because it eats your life.
To be honest, I like the boxes, but I could never understand the fascination behind the game. But that I was never an RPG kind of guy, so I never. The only Ultima, Joe, the only Ultima I played was Ultima 8. That one was the one I played. It was not so RPG-like than the other ones. I enjoyed that a lot, but I was never into RPG. Don't know all the games the guy shows each day in our group, but I saw a few friends playing World of Warcraft, and I didn't get it. I don't get the fascination behind it, but it is a huge thing, of course. And it's a huge world, no? A lot of things going on. People meet there and have time, hang out. I don't know what they do there all the time, but they do a lot of things there, seems like. But the boxes are pretty nice, and they did a nice, I think, a nice one, because it is. They don't have to do so. I like it when they put boxes, release boxes. They look like the same. As you said, no, have them on a shelf. It looks like. I never understand what they did with the Legend of Kyrandia boxes. They tried to use the same layout, but if you look at the box, no one really fits the other. That I don't get it. There are discussions on the internet about the Legend of Kyrandia boxes, because they changed slightly things each time, and if you have them in a row, you say, well, what the fuck? What's wrong here? No? Why did you keep to the thing? What have you in mind? So I like the Warcraft. I saw them at some friends in a row, and it looks really beautiful.
Yeah, they're the initial vanilla World of Warcraft game box is not cheap in the collector's edition. They're kind of getting to the point where you can get one for one of the newer ones for like $100, but in order to really make an impact on your shelf, you really have to have all of them, because they do just, I don't know, they just look like ancient tomes. They're just really cool, probably cooler than the game itself. But really love those boxes. Blizzard never disappoints with their collector's editions. I have all of them. They're all awesome. If you're going to pick up a collector's edition, you cannot go wrong with a Blizzard collector's edition.
As someone who's nurturing a potentially unhealthy Hearthstone habit at the moment, I'm not sure if I'm happy or peeved that they haven't opted to do box releases for any of the Hearthstone expansions so far. I mean, given they're based on the old World of Warcraft collectible card game, they could print cards. They could print actual cards and put them in the box releases. How could they? That would be an amazing opportunity.
Well, they did. I don't know if it came over there, but they had a World of Warcraft card game. I have some.
I know that's what the whole Hearthstone thing was based off. Most of the original set of Hearthstone cards were directly copied from the WoW card game. But I just think that would be really nice if they'd done sort of Naxxramas and so on. With you get a box, you get some actual cards. Not that they need any encouragement, but I'm currently a free player because I'm not sort of legend level or anything. I'm just a casual player who enjoys beating people who are also crappy casual players. But that would actually push me to spend more money. So I think they're missing on a demographic to exploit there. Oh, Joe's disappeared. I imagine he's heading off to get a copy of Ultima 8, which includes some cards. Sorry, Ultima 9. I have Psychic Powers. Ooh, that's a copy of Toonstruck Pascal has.
There.
Yay! Toonstruck. So talking about Legend of Kyrandia, this game is actually based on the engine of Legend of Kyrandia. But I read something about it took the developers like 1.5 years or so to update and get rid of a lot of errors and glitches in the old engine. But that one was used for creating Toonstruck with Christopher Lloyd, we know from Back to the Future and other funny movies. And I like this game a lot. I still love it. This was so many things. It was funny, it was good looking. I like cartoons a lot, and it was so well integrated. I mean, Christopher Lloyd as a real character integrated into the world, that was really fantastic. I enjoyed that so much.
It looks like it has a kind of Who Framed Roger Rabbit vibe to it.
Yeah, totally. And the thing is, it was a complete disaster because it was a commercial flop, because it cost so much money. It cost like over $8 million or so at the time. They had like standards better than Disney, talking about the cartoon quality. They had like top voice actors and stuff. Christopher Lloyd, I'm not sure how much money he get for being the main part and so. But they never really recovered completely from that game, because it was not really. It still has a huge fan base online still today. Guys looking for a sequel for all the years. No, that is one I'm waiting for a Kickstarter for years now. That maybe something happened there, and I guess there was something announced that there could be something in the future also. But it was.
Isn't it popularly thought that the box art on both the US and European versions kind of didn't do many favours for the game in terms of making it clear what was involved? I actually prefer the Euro UK version.
That one?
Yeah, that one.
Okay, I actually like the US one more. I think the European version is ugly.
I think the US one would actively put me off buying it because I hated that sort of melange of animation and full motion.
Okay, I really think the European version is ugly. If I see something like that, I'm not sure if I pick it up. It looks like a cheap game to me, like some B-movie titles or whatsoever.
What were the box backs like?
Yeah, the back is not so interesting as well, but you got the screenshots at least. I mean, you can see what you are waiting, but I'm not sure if I would pick it up and see what's on the back of the box. I guess as I see the cover, I think, okay, it's some childish, not so sure, whatever that is. And I like seeing
Christopher... kind of art and animation look, which I think appeals.
But seeing Christopher Lloyd on a cover, that is an argument for me to say, hey, I want to take a closer look to that one. And it looks funny already. Funny thing, we talked about sealed and open games and about completeness or so. I'm not sure if you see that one here. Let me find my camera. So this one said it comes on 2 CDs. Mm-hmm. You find versions that said it comes on 3 CDs, but there are only 2 CDs included, because at the time when the first boxes were made, they thought the game will be finished on 3 CDs. So the boxes were already printed, but at the end they found, I guess, they they took some time again to polish and stuff, and then maybe they found a better whatever thing to reduce video quality or so. So they were able to put it on 2 CDs, but the boxes were already printed. I sold a box back in the past where it said it comes on 3 CDs, and there are some discussions online where they say, hey, is there something missing because I only have 2 CDs and it said it's on 3? No, this was only available on 2 CDs ever.
How do you rate the game? How does it play?
Excuse me?
How does it play? I mean, you're obviously a huge fan of it, but I'm finding it hard to solve.
It's nice. It's not so easy. There's some tricky and hard puzzles in it, but it's fair. It's funny. I really enjoyed it a lot, and it works really like you play Watch the Rabbit, the movie or so. It's really comparable to something like that, and I like Christopher Lloyd's acting, and the story is completely bizarre but funny together. So still enjoyable. Like that one a lot. Toonstruck, yeah.
Has anyone ever uncovered any of the original video footage?
Say again, sir?
I said, has anyone been able to uncover any of the original video footage?
Of Toonstruck?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know. Sorry, I'm not aware of anything going around with Toonstruck or so. What I know is development took so many years, and they created so much cartoons and animations, and I guess only a third or so made it into the final game. So there was so many stuff left, which should somehow used for a sequel as well, and that is where the community or the fan base was hoping for a long time, to say, hey, we have so many unseen stuff left, what about a sequel? But due to this commercial flop, it was never taken into consideration. So I don't know what happened to all that data.
Somebody has it. Someone has it somewhere. Tracking that kind of stuff down is what gives me my passion. That's what I love to do.
Anyone else got anything to show before we move on to our next topic of discussion?
I have a segue item, but I would like to know what Joe was getting off his shelf while I was talking about collectible cards.
I was getting the next one if there happened to be another show and tell for later. Are you asking for me to do a show and tell now?
I think we probably segue to another thing and then see what you have to show us.
Okay, then be patient. Give me your segue.
But it's like we're going to finish early, so we can probably do one more show and tell after the next discussion.
Sounds like a plan. My show and tell is probably something a lot of people have. It's not particularly rare or anything, but it does move on to something I know Pascal's going to be talking about later. This is Gabriel Knight 3. It's from the sort of it's sort of one of my favourite adventure games, and it's from the dying days of the sort of 90s adventure game genre. It was a brilliant game. It's really tightly plotted, and as I mentioned in the Facebook group earlier, it's sort of my choice for if people are discussing Easter games, it's kind of an anti-Easter game, because it's based on a book called part of the plots. The plot's based on sort of Christian mythology in much the same way some of the Broken Sword titles were. But it's based on a book called Holy Blood, Holy Grail, which holds that the Merovingian line of European royalty was descended from Christ, which kind of makes it an anti-Easter game in that it presumes that Christ never died, which is about as un-Easter as you can get. So that's my topical theme. But disregarding which mythology it's used, and the entire Gabriel Knight series makes excellent, really solidly researched use of whatever mythology it does explore. This is just a fantastic game. It gets Tim Curry back, and he's one of my favorite voice actors. You have a nice solid range of material in the box, even though it's a late day adventure game, including the comic books that we have all come to expect from the Gabriel Knight series. it also sort of brings it touches on our theme of big name movie actors, because you've not just got Tim Curry. You've got Rene Auberjonois, who probably most people know as Odo from Deep Space Nine. He appears in this as a surly French taxi driver, if I recall correctly, which was great. And yeah, you don't have Mark Hamill back as Mosley, unfortunately. The cast is stellar. The game is absolutely fantastic. It's a really tight adventure game, and I can't speak highly enough of it in terms of depth of research. And I think the graphics are actually pretty good for the time. I mean, they look fairly primitive now. You're talking sort of early 3D adventure game modeling, but they're sufficient for the task. I mean, I preferred in many ways, of the three original Gabriel Knight games, my preference is actually for the rotoscoping on the first title, rather than either the FMV or the 3D modeling. Although I think what's interesting is that between its 3 installments, the series shows the evolution and development of the ways in which you can present an adventure game. All we're missing is a text adventure prequel. So, yeah, it's not particularly rare, but it's absolutely one of my favourites.
It's funny, after finishing Gabriel Knight 2, which is one of my favorite, probably my favorite adventure game of all time, or one of, I should say, I eagerly sought out the third one, and I remember playing through that game and enjoying it. I remember thinking that the game was more obtuse than the previous one, and the puzzles were. I vaguely remember like a mustache and a cat and glue in the mustache on the thing. You know, it's like these weird sort of puzzles where you kind of have to randomly click items around to see if you could get things to work. I also remember there not being a good or a really great like horror payoff at the end of it, like there was in the second one. Like I kept waiting on that kind of punch you in the stomach moment that just never really happened in that game.
I think it definitely counts more as mystery than horror. I mean, I think rather than being a horror series, which often gets mischaracterized the Gabriel Knight series is obviously a mystery series, but also a sort of global mythology series because of the way it's spanned, and again because, as I said, the depth of research in it. But yeah, I can see how I mean, I'll come clean. I've not actually played Gabriel Knight 2. I just recently got hold of a copy. My prejudice against FMV was that strong that I didn't play the second installment in the sequel to what must have been my favourite game of the 90s. So, you know, I'm being re-educated thanks to a special program put out by the Big Box Gamers Group. But it's hard going.
So you got a hold of the second Gabriel Knight?
I got it a couple of weeks ago.
I am really looking forward to having you play it and then giving us a review here on video, because I would love to see you and Joel pair off on the details. You know, favorite parts, little bits, stuff like that.
God, it's been, since I played that game, it's been, what year did I play that? I was like a junior in college. It's been since like 2001, 2002. I don't know that I remember everything about it. I remember
I'll have to put in a spoiler warning.
I remember the big things, but hope I didn't spoil it for you too much with my little story earlier.
It was suitably vague, and I had my headphones ready to rip off if anything got too spoilery. But I know Pascal said he was going to be talking potentially about Gabriel Knight when it came to remakes. That's certainly been one of the more high-profile game remakes we've had recently. So I think that's probably a nice segue from this show and tell to the remake special.
Before we do that, some other thoughts on Gabriel Knight. What I like about Gabriel Knight series so far is the 3 games are so different. Gabriel Knight 1, Sins of the Fathers, is my all-time favorite. There's no better adventure game out there than Gabriel Knight 1. I enjoyed the 3 games of the Gabriel Knight series a lot. 2 was a brilliant, wonderful game, without a doubt. 3 was different. It lacked a bit due to this. We have to do something in 3D and so on, so we have to move to that standard. But what I liked is all the games look completely different, but they're still Gabriel Knight. No? So they're still about mystery. You have the characters, you have the Jane Denson's powerful and great stories behind it. And I really enjoyed all the 3, but they were all completely different compared to the parts before. No? And I enjoyed that one a lot. That was really nice. And funny thing is, and Joel mentioned the cat moustache thing, and so the puzzle where you had not only make a moustache out of cat hair and stuff like that, totally ridiculous. So I think Gabriel Knight 3 was the last adventure game that Sierra ever released, and there are some articles on the internet talking about the death of adventure genre and so they mentioned the puzzle as well, responsible for the death of adventure games, because it is so ridiculous and stupid. But on the other hand, Gabriel Knight 3 had some of the best riddles in the adventure game history at all. The serpent, what is it? The serpent whoosh or so? So a longer...
The serpent whoosh, yeah, I remember, yes, you had to piece it together.
Complex, huge puzzle in the game. This is so brilliant. It is so well, with a lot of history and a lot of research you have to do and stuff. That is really so well designed. And that on the one hand, and on the other hand, something stupid like this cat moustache thing. That is insane that both of them are in one game. But it happens. And I mean, okay, it's an adventure game, and we know they have to create something that has never been.
It's not an adventure game unless you have at least 10% absolutely stupid puzzles.
Exactly. And another nice fact is where I think where you see how to say with my limited English skills, the power of retailers or something like that. You know the subtitle of the game.
Blood of the Sacred, Blood of the Damned.
Exactly. So Walmart, as I read somewhere, made Sierra to remove the subtitles from the boxes because they
That's an embossed box you've got there, Pascal.
That is an US version with flip cover.
Oh, because I've got the Euro version here and it's just flat.
Right. I have the German version and the European version as well, and yeah, the US one is the nicer one.
I need a copy of that box.
In that case. And so Walmart actually made Sierra to produce boxes especially for Walmart without the subtitle and say, come on, you see the power of shops like Walmart. I mean, Walmart, I'm not an American, of course, so I don't know if there's anything else in Walmart, but they had the power to do so, no? And they said, hey, we don't put that on the shelf, and Sierra did so. I haven't found a box without it so far. I'm still looking for that one, but it's there. Walmart made Sierra to change the cover design.
I suppose this was around the time when America was having one of its minor satanic panics because
It was the same time as like what was that rap group that came out, the Cop Killer CD? Walmart started like
it
wasn't a rap. It was their body count, their Ice-T's metal band. Because that's my other nerd area. I could tell you more than you needed to know about that, but.
Whenever that stuff started coming out, Walmart went nuts with like all the CDs you bought in Walmart were edited, all the bad words were taken out of them, and
the Two Live Crew.
Did someone just invoke the spirit of Two Live Crew?
That's where all that stuff all happened to start.
But you also had a friend of mine wrote a book about this called The Columbine Effect, and I can't actually remember when that was, so I may be hideously off. But that kind of prompted a lot more sort of visible censorship of game and music. Not actually the content, but the boxes of all things. It was the CD packaging and the game packaging. So it's fine if your game or your music advocates murder, death, and Satanism. Just make sure the front has fluffy bunnies on it. It'll be cool.
It all comes down to sales.
I can't think of a better segue than fluffy bunnies and Satanism than
It is Easter. Tis the season.
to go into our next topic, which is about re-releases and reboots and how we feel about those. I guess I'll lead off with I actually don't own a lot of them. I guess because I played so many games when I was younger that I don't typically revisit games, so I don't really own many, but I don't really necessarily have a problem with them, only because in the case of Gabriel Knight, which is probably the most recent, really high-profile one, those older Sierra games can be a little difficult to get running on a modern machine, especially with our monitors all being widescreen now, and you know how it's hard to get them to not stretch the image and all that stuff. So in a way, those remakes can be kind of useful, but in the same token, you're losing your Tim Curry, and you're losing a lot of the cool comic book art that kind of made Gabriel Knight 1 such a special kind of experience. So I'm not sure how I really feel about it necessarily. Maybe you guys can help me formulate a better opinion.
This year I've been mostly playing remakes, which I'll go into later, but I really enjoyed the replaying Gabriel Knight. I last played Gabriel Knight one in my teens, and I found it really well researched. Now, actually, there's some elements of the sort of plotting and the narrative and the characterization of say African American characters. I mean, the characterization's great. Everyone's a fully rounded character. It's just a bit unfortunate that you've got the black female love interest Vivienne who who comes this close to joining the forces of light, and then obviously falls. Spoiler alert! Mute now. Falls down a gaping chasm. Okay, we're clear. No spoiler. Spoiler done. But getting that opportunity to reassess the plot was really nice. And I thought the voice cast was generally very strong. Apparently they hired the same studio that did the voice cast for A Wolf Among Us. Don't make a face, Pascal. And it did remind me of what a very good game it was, particularly as there were sort of a few extra details added in. What I didn't like was, and I liked the background art being, the backgrounds were really nicely done. I thought the character art was a little weak. I was very besotted with Tim Curry's cod New Orleans accent, even though it wasn't a very realistic New Orleans accent. So I think that's probably the thing I missed most. But the switch to 3D character models was disconcerting. I thought the backgrounds were generally improved. However, the cutscene hand-drawn artwork again was inferior to the original for my money. But they did fantastically well given the budget they didn't have. And I think it stands a good chance of reintroducing the game to a new audience. I may be biased because I helped fund it, but I was very happy with it. I sat down and I played it solidly for a few days until it was finished.
Well, it seemed like it was. I haven't played it, so this is, coming from out of my butt, I guess. But it feels like it's at least keeping true to the original roots. When you look at something,
it's a scene-to-scene remake, basically different voice cast, slight tweaking. Oh, and there's these lovely optional extra where in every scene you can click into a book and you get to see a load of the old design notes from the original game and a lot of the sketch art and photos of the team and early voice recordings from both versions. So I think it really knows that its audience is a lot of retro enthusiasts, people who loved the game in the past. So sorry to interrupt you.
Like, it's an interesting mirror image of what I think is going on with this King's Quest reboot, which I'm not 100% sold on. I've kind of commented negatively on it, but the older I get now, the more kind of soft I'm getting to. I'm like, well, whatever. If it's a fun game, maybe it'll maybe it'll just blow my doors off. I don't know. Just watching the videos of it right now just aren't exactly knocking my socks off. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I can agree, and especially at the Sierra reboot part with King's Quest. I think this is maybe a new topic and an own topic where we can talk all night about the Sierra coming back of Sierra as a brand and the games they start with. I mean, there are already, I guess, 2 games released and nobody's really talking about them. It has nothing to do with Sierra games. I mean, I have mixed feelings. Sierra was one of the biggest publisher at the time, releasing games, and it not only released adventure games. We all know they released a lot of games I didn't play back then, and I wouldn't play today. So I judge something that was existing back then already. But the games they already started with, the 2 casual ones, I have not seen them, have not played them, and this is not which I would personally want to see Sierra come back with. And the King's Quest topic, I mean, we're not talking about remake, no, we're talking about a reboot of the series. I don't like what I see so far. I don't think that is something I would want to have as a King's Quest name. It could be a funny casual game, as it seems, but it could be anything. They can put any name on this type of game. It don't have to be King's Quest, but that is my personal opinion, and because I enjoy the game series back then so much, so I would like to see something familiar, not something what they are doing right now under an indie label. But we will see. We have to wait until the game is out. And remakes, talking about Gabriel Knight, I don't enjoy that one so much because why? Gabriel Knight 1 is my all-time favorite adventure game, so no remake can possibly honor that because the game is so perfect, I think, as it was back then. It is just
also, we are the same people as we were back then when we played it. You
Exactly.
can't reproduce that youthful innocence.
Exactly. I won't judge a game like Gabriel Knight that is my favorite today because it's, of course, has so many not so nice features. Some puzzles are incredibly hard. I mean, you're not able to. I guess I never finished it by myself. I was not able to. Not only to my limited English skills, but because the puzzles some of them were really, really hard.
I co-played as well.
Yeah, and so I wouldn't judge it the same way like it did back then, but it's still my best one. And mention the characters like Tim, or voices like Tim Curry or so, if you don't get someone back on the remake, so it suffers automatically from that. And so the remake is always not so good as the original. But on the other hand, I mean, if we look at Sierra, they did it back then already. They did remakes for all the first entries of their most known series: Police Quest, Larry, Space Quest, Quest for Glory. All of them have an remake and later remake of Sierra, and I like
Mixed Up Mother Goose got remade 3 times, didn't it?
Pardon me?
Mixed Up Mother Goose got remade
Exactly.
3
Mixed Up
times.
Mother Goose was one of the examples with the most remakes, with some major enhancements, some minor enhancements, but exactly, but especially for the like take Police Quest or Space Quest or so. What I liked about the remakes, I like the original one, the first one, more, but nowadays the remakes are easier to access and easier to play them again. They have like mouse interface. They are point and click. You don't have to write anything, and they don't have some design errors from the originals. So from a replay perspective, I would prefer the remakes today. And the time back then, when a few years ago, when I started again playing a few Sierra games, talking about those, I played the remakes, and I did not start with the original ones because they are things like bit easier to access nowadays and to have a look at.
I really thought the remake of Quest for Glory or Hero Quest, or whatever you want to call it, was quite amazing because I can't think of many games. There are a few that had that interesting kind of claymation aesthetic to them. Was was really nice. I actually really prefer the remake of that particular game over the original one, which was sort of standard looking early 80s Sierra title, and the VGA remake really injected it with some real style, I think.
Exactly, and it feels a bit like a new game. No? I mean, it was for sure. You know the story, you know the characters, but the art, the look and feel was new, it was fresh, it was enhanced with sounds and animations, and so it definitely. And they put a lot of nice additional extra input. Some are not only remakes, some are more and enhanced with new scenes or features. And I liked that a lot. And so I don't think that remakes is a topic of today or so, that we see so many remakes. We don't see so many remakes, if I can talk for the games I have in view or play these days. We had that all the time, and some were okay, some were not. So I'm totally fine with everything. And as KG mentioned, what Gabriel Knight does maybe is it addressed the new players. I mean, not all are like as old as Joe is, so no one already knows the games from back then, and so if you want to induce someone today in such a series, so it could be a great start. Why not? And if that is the result that like Gabriel Knight get a lot of attention, and Activision with the new Sierra reboot decides to create a new Gabriel Knight game, then the remake, be my guest, of course.
I was about to say, Quest for Glory's Heroes Quest for Glory, shall we say, is one of the few games where I would actually play both the sort of standard AGS original and the enhanced VGA version, because I think both of them have their merit, and that's partly because I'm a real sucker for being able to type in games. But this has been very much my year of playing reboots and remakes. I mean, most of my gameplay hours, except for Hearthstone, which is basically a shameful addiction, which I should not be admitting to, have been sunk into Shroud of the Avatar, which, okay, is a spiritual successor to the Ultima series, but I've invested a fair amount of time in that. And I played through the Gabriel Knight remake, and I have been playing a few other things as well. And what I'm currently playing through is well, not this, because I know we're past Joe and Tal, but this is the original version of Grim Fandango. Now, I never played this at time of release, and it got hyped up, not least of all because it was pretty much impossible to get to run on modern computer systems. And you know what gamers are like if they can't get something. It gets mythologized. Again, it was one of those last hurrahs of adventure gaming, and it was heralded as being incredibly high quality, despite having a control system that is basically an homage to the Marquis de Sade. It's heralded as a great, and that's partly because it's so inaccessible to people wanting to replay it, I think. Now, it was re-released, and it's a very end. Basically, what's been changed is it's been uprated, so you can play it on a 2K screen, and it looks really sweet. You can now use a mouse with it. I am so grateful for that. I find the driving sequences where you have to use keyboard controls frustrating enough. So I can't imagine having to steer Manny in it. And I can very much see why it's regarded as a classic. The quality of voice acting is astonishing. The themes, the setting, that sort of noir come Aztec comes Mexican Day of the Dead thing. In terms of setting, it's brilliant. And unfortunately, its big downside, which I was warned about by a friend who played it at time of release and was a huge Lucas fan, is that its puzzle construction is, it is in places strong, but tends to lack internal logic. It's extremely hard in places. I mean, really extremely hard. I'm good at illogical adventure game puzzles. Maybe I just don't think along the right lines here. But yeah, it is hard, and the puzzles don't necessarily have that much internal consistency. And I wish I could come up with a particular example for you. I mean, here's a great one. there is one section, again, spoiler alert, but if you're playing the thing, you might want to know this. There's a section where you have to take a mold of your own teeth because they're apparently needed to log on to a computer network. Yeah, I know. And you can find some car filler, which obviously is the exact material you choose to make a dental mold out of, but you haven't got anything to make it in. As it turns out, if you punch your colleague's punching bag 4 times, then his mouth guard, which you don't even really see when you're in the room, it's a fairly small spot on the screen, falls down, and you can use that as a dental mold. And okay, yes, it's kind of logically consistent, but that whole punch this thing to get this multiple times without any indication that it's making any difference in order to get this thing that you can't even really see. I mean, you do see the guy wearing a mouth guard earlier, in fairness, but that's a fairly early game puzzle, and the game actually gets easier and more logical as you get into the second part. And I think putting that kind of wall up in early game is something that's characteristic of older games that you see less of now. Current games seem to have more of a notion of a fair difficulty curve. Again, because they relatively cost less compared to income and inflation, and so they are more of a throwaway entertainment as opposed to being a significant chunk of your monthly budget that you want to last you for hours and hours and hours, no matter how hard or sadistic they might be. But I think that's actually an instance where it's a good game and I'm enjoying playing it, but it's kind of because it is so faithful. It's just an improvement and re-release for modern systems. It kind of shows up some ways in which there's some of the failings of the first release. Sorry, I rattled on for quite a bit there.
No, I found it interesting. I remember having a problem with that exact puzzle.
It's not very fair. It's not a very fair puzzle.
I got your point, and I agree to that, but especially with that remake, I have mixed feelings again, because the Grim Fandango, it was already playable with mouse support. There was a mod introducing mouse support for Grim Fandango, and so when Double Fine announced that they are working on a Grim Fandango remake, I was, oh wow, and I was expecting something like the remakes of Monkey Island 1 and 2, the special editions, which I really like. The second remake is better than the first one, I guess. But both are really nice, because what I liked about them is they keep the spirit, and the first one, the original one, is already is included still. Now you can switch in real time to the old version and the new version. That is really brilliant development stuff.
I like those too. I played them on mobile and it was great.
It was wonderful. You can play the old version with voice acting and stuff like that. So this is really brilliant. And I was expecting something like that, because Grim Fandango is one of the adventure games of all time. So if you talk about the top 10 of adventure games, Grim Fandango is always a part of it. So I want, personally, if a game like this gets a remake, I want to have the best possible remake that is ever achievable. And to be honest, the Grim Fandango remake, it looks like another cheap way how Double Fine gets a bit more money because of their mismanagement of how they spend too much money on certain projects. That is my.
Why do you hate Double Fine? I've never asked.
Yeah, because they ruin so much. I mean, Broken Age is nothing they promised so far, and it's insane how long they need for such a game and stuff, and how many money it costs. Other developers would love to get that kind of budget for an adventure game. And if we look especially into Kickstarter, what kind of adventure games were already made and delivered, some of them, in my opinion, looked way better than Broken Age with a percentage of that budget. But that's another topic for another talk about stuff sync. And so what I'm coming to is, I would like to see a great Grim Fandango remake, and they didn't deliver it. And they talked about so many stuff. They fully new soundtrack with an orchestra, and they lied on a lot of things. If you listen to the music, and some guys did that on the internet, you can do a research on that one. They haven't improved the sound at all. They do the main theme or so was recorded by an orchestra, but they talked about they did it with the whole thing, and they didn't. And so they promised a lot and delivered less, and that is what I don't like about the remake. And it is nice if this is accessible by newer players, younger players. No? So is this the latest version? It's okay with me, but I really heavily disappointed about that remake. I don't like it that much because, again, Double Fine said, "Hey, something big is coming," and at the end I say, "Where are the improvements?" They did so many errors with Lightning or so. There are so many errors. If you play the remake, Lightning is completely messed up, and a lot of other things are messed up too. So I don't need remakes like that, to be honest.
You say the lighting is messed up in a lot of scenes?
Yeah, the lighting. I'm not sure how to explain that one. So they use real lighting sources in the game, but they didn't work on the characters as they should. So there are some errors. If the character moves through the game, lighting is messed up in a lot of scenes and stuff.
But the lighting was one of the main features of that remake, was it not?
Don't tell me.
KG?
The aspect ratio was messed up as well. The aspects of the side, because they still have the 4:3 aspect and not 16:9 and stuff. So the many things. Yeah, but I don't want to go too detailed here. So I don't like it.
My ignorance of Broken Age is profound, so I can't add anything here.
Well, I know that I'm looking forward to Ultima Ascendant. That is not going to be a spiritual successor, but it's actually going to be Ultima Underworld.
Underworld Ascendant. They can't use the Ultima word.
I thought they had the license.
I thought Underworld. No, Underworld Ascendant is still Underworld Ascendant, unless something's changed sort of in the last.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Hours.
So is that a spiritual successor or not?
No, it's definitely a proper successor. As it turns out they have rights. They retain rights to most of the plot elements as well, I believe. So they're not in the same boat that Richard Garriott is with the main Ultima line.
But then I can't understand why they would change everything around to all these new factions and new things like that. I wanted to go visit, the Knights of the Crooks on Sada. I wanted to show up as an old knight again.
I think there's some stuff they don't have right. They're definitely treading a very fine legal line, and I really wish EA would just release the rights, and then we could get rid of the bloody elves. Which, sorry, I don't mean to be prejudiced, but elves, seriously.
What do you have against elves?
Hey, it's perfectly justifiable.
Back off, Garrity.
I'm quite looking forward to that game too, only because Ultima Underworld 1 and 2 were two games that really blew my head off when I played them for the first time, and I'm a little. Me and you talked a lot when the Kickstarter was going on because I waffled back and forth about whether to kickstart that thing, but eventually ended up doing it, and I hope that they don't let me down because what I've seen so far isn't just blowing my head off like the old ones did.
Agreed. I'm patiently waiting to see something that's going to just immerse me into that story.
I'll give them
so far
because they haven't really shown anything, so I'll definitely give the benefit of the doubt.
But so far, I haven't seen anything that makes me go, I'm going to go back to that world again.
The only thing that makes me feel better about that whole thing is that in my history of playing games, the one company that consistently delivered something completely original and completely awesome was Looking Glass Studios. They easily one of the best developers ever to live. So with those folks behind it, I'm confident they'll come up with something special.
I agree. Yeah, System Shock.
I'm really looking forward to it too.
That's one of my favorite
System
games.
Shock.
System Shock 2 is one of the scariest games I've ever played in my entire life. Period.
One of the best games I ever played, System Shock. Yeah.
Me too.
I got that copy 2 days ago, so by accident it's now on my desk. That's why I was able to pull
Very
it out
shiny.
quickly. Yeah, it is. One of the best games ever designed. I personally like that one. Deus Ex series was wonderful as well, but I prefer System Shock before Deus Ex.
I love that one. I love both of them, but man, System Shock 2 had some serious creep factor, man. I mean, that game had atmosphere just coming out of its rear end. It was something else. Scary as hell.
Yeah. But
Now
you
that's a
mentioned
game which sort of inspired a lot of spiritual sequels, I think. I mean, you've got the whole argument that the whole Bioshock series would never have existed without the dual influence of Bioforge and System Shock. I mean, hell, the clue is in the name.
I am a massive fan of the Bioshock series as well. They're completely different types of games. They're spiritual successors only in that they share the Shock title, and they're about a lone person wandering around in a dystopian, weird kind of environment. But those games too share a similarity in storytelling and mood that is very relevant, I think, to System Shock. I really like Bioshock 2 was maybe a little weak, but Bioshock 1 was amazing. Bioshock Infinite was also amazing. I love both those games.
Totally agree. The world they created with Bioshock, this is so powerful and deep. This is amazing. Characters, the world. This is really the story. That is really, really, really amazing. I like the first one the most, to be honest, but the other ones are very good as well. But you mentioned something, Joel, I would like to address, and I agree on that one. Your expectations on the new Ultima. So I'm not deep into Ultima, but I want to go into the expectations thing on Kickstarter and others. That is the thing I have, or the most concern I have with most modern remakes of really old games, because none of them can meet my expectations. That is the thing. It is just to me. I know I have to lower my expectations. But if I talk about King's Quest, this was one of the most known adventure game series back then. King's Quest 6 was the highlight of the adventure game genre with fantasy telling and technology-wise and puzzle-wise and whatsoever. And now they have an indie studio. I don't have anything about indie studios. I mean, we have a lot of good examples which creating really good games. But this specific studio developing the new King's Quest has never created an adventure game before. They have delivered like 2 or 3 casual games so far, which are okay, which are enjoyable. No, nothing about that. But it's not enough for me that the boss of the company said, I like King's Quest a lot and I played all of them. I say, hey, wonderful. There are a million others who did that, but they don't have any idea about game development. So I don't want to judge them their development skills, but it is a small studio from like 3 to 5 people or so, and they try to create something. And what I don't like most about it is then the community talks about, hey, it is good that King's Quest comes back, and we have to be thankful that it comes back, and this is a new, fresh interpretation of how King's Quest, about new King's Quest game would look like if Roberto would do it, and so. And I say, I can't follow that kind of argumentation, to be sure, because I disagree in a lot of ways. Because I would like to see an development studio here which already has a background on making adventure games, on how puzzles are interpreted, how adventure game, what is the spirit of an adventure game, what is an adventure game, and so. And so I'm not just there and say, yeah, King's Quest is back. I'm more like, who's doing it and why? So to be honest, somehow I think some games don't need a remake at all. Just personally, because I think they will never met my expectations. Taking Mobius, the first of Jane Jensen, before they did the Gabriel Knight remake with a new adventure game, Mobius, the story is great. The story is good behind the game, but I think the game is poor. The development studio did an okay job, but not a really wonderful job. It lacks.
Did Pinkerton Road do that one in house, or did they put that one out? Because I remember the one of hers I played. Oh damn it! The one set in Oxford. I'll get back. I'll get back to you. Where she worked with Daedalic Entertainment. Grey Matter. Sorry. That was I think Grey Matter was really fantastic. I've not played Mobius, but wasn't that pretty much the first thing Pinkerton Road developed in house?
Yeah, they had already development studios working for them, but hired guys. They changed. I believe with Grey Matter they changed the development team at one point. So that's when I remember right. It were mostly some European developers. I have forgotten which it was. Which they were.
Well, I got mine from the Daedalic team, but it's possible that they were probably just doing distribution. But I think I think Joel.
I was gonna say we got about 20 minutes ish. There's a cat on my couch back here.
Mm-hmm.
Like that one. We have about 20 minutes left, so if we want to segue into our final show and tell, and I think we're all just dying to see what Joe's got hidden behind the curtain over there.
Can you actually? No, you can't actually see it. I did hide it very, very well. This is one of the first Origin games that ever came out. This is a rare game known as Caverns of Callisto.
I love the Buck Rogers artwork.
Never heard of that one before, so please enlighten me.
Well, this came out, this was done by Chuckles, Chuck Boucher. This came out in 1983 and was sitting on the shelf right next to Ultima 3. This is nothing more than an action game. It's a little Apple version of going through different types of caverns. And it's a side-scrolling, up and down-scrolling, very cheap little game. The thing that makes it rare is that nobody knows about it. There weren't too many of them out there, and I was in the process of trying to complete my Origin collection. Lo, these many 15, 16 years ago, I actually found a copy of the game. Somebody sold a copy to me when eBay was brand spanking new. I got to know one of these guys. He sold this to me offline, and so I put it up on my website, which has been defunct for over a decade. Well, putting it up on my website added to the mystique of this. I got this for like 20 bucks from him. And people started really, really getting into it. The cool thing, and the nice little insert and the special tchotchke with this, is that one of the levels of Caverns of Callisto is on a big, long, wide map that comes with the game.
Wow.
So you roll your guy for all this stuff. But I put out, you know, images of it. I took pictures of the box and the contents and put it out on the internet. It got to be this weird obsession with people to get a copy of this game. Unbeknownst to me, there weren't too many of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody was trying to buy it from me, you know, trade with me to get this stuff. And I'm not going to sell it. I mean, it's for my collection. But the prices skyrocketed on eBay. And this goes for well over $100, and I believe that it goes for that much for no other reason other than the fact that I put it on my website and told everybody that it was hard to find. which is really sad because I don't think it actually is in reality. I know a lot of people who have a copy now.
Do you think there's this instinct to collect things because they're hard to find, rather than because there's something you personally want for either gameplay reasons or even just because you like the feelings of box presentation?
It was for me for a short time. I mean, I kind of outgrew that as my collecting grew, but just because it's rare doesn't mean that I have to have it. My obsession goes for completism and things like that. I want to make sure I have, a lot of those things, and you end up outgrowing that as well. So, I mean, I got to be honest, I don't even buy anymore. I just, when they come, when they show up at my doorstep, I go, great, and if they don't, I go back and look at some of the old stuff again. I was digging through boxes with Joel as he was testing the broadcast stuff for this morning, just finding all kinds of odd, weird things.
Funny thing, I never heard about that game, but I looked it up on Moby Games. So the developer was Chuck Büchel.
Yeah,
that's correct. That's Richard. That was Richard Garriott's partner, the guy that helped start Origin.
Actually, did a lot of the few sci-fi RPGs that we saw in the 80s, because he was behind AD 2600 and so on.
Correct.
I think what is interesting, he already did few games which were released or published by Sierra. He was Lunar Leaper, Left Pack, Jawbreaker.
That's
Sierra was Origin's publisher for a while as well.
Right. Nice.
Actually, it was incredibly acrimonious.
I'm sorry, acrimonious?
Conflict-ridden, and they, as far as from what I know, there was a certain amount of disagreement between what would become Origin and Sierra about the way publication worked. I mean, hence Escape from Mount Drash, which just had the Ultima branding that's on it, for example.
Right, they still own the license.
Well, I've got something fun to show. People who look at the Facebook group will know that I've acquired this King's Quest IV recently from our friend in the group, Eric Jacobus. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. But this particular copy was missing the 3.5-inch disc, and I say was because I did find a rogue eBay auction that someone was just selling the 3.5-inch discs, and I did now complete the box, which is nice. I was fortunate because there's multiple colors of these discs that Sierra put out, and I happened to find this auction was the color of this particular release of King's Quest IV, which is the release that has the Win a Trip to England sticker on it, which is one of the 10,000 releases of King's Quest IV, apparently. I've never played this game. I never owned it before, so now that I've got 3.5-inch discs, I may, install it in DOSBox and give it a shot. It looks cute on the back. It looks somewhere in between King's Quest V graphically and the older King's Quests, so it looks interesting. It's relevant, I think, because it's one of the first games to have a female protagonist, which is really cool. Roberta was a very forward thinker in that category, so I'm looking forward to trying it out. So really neat pickup. This particular copy is well loved, which is fine. It's got the box is sort of worn out, but that's okay. It just means someone played the hell out of it when they were younger.
Is that the 256K release or the 512K release?
This is the 512K.
Okay, so that is the most common one, because back then Sierra had like two different. This was the area when they switched their game development system, and King's Quest IV was one of the last games, which or maybe the only one. I'm not sure about that. but where they started using the old engine, switched to the new engine. So this was released with both interpreters at the end, and this 256K version is the rare one. It's you can find it. It's not so super rare, but it's rarer than the 512K version. Yeah, great game. And I guess it, as you mentioned, I guess it was the first game with a female protagonist.
If it wasn't first, it had to have been close to it, because I don't remember many.
Didn't the Colonel's Bequest come out before King's Quest 4?
Don't really think so. I don't think so.
No?
No.
I thought it was some slightly
We can look that out. But what I know is that Maniac Mansion was released before King's Quest 4, but and you could choose a female player in Maniac Mansion, but not as a main or sole protagonist. You had to choose guys as well. So I think I read somewhere that King's Quest 4 was the first game where you can play the female as a main protagonist.
Consulting the internet now.
And it was released after. It has to be. I hope.
Sam asked in the chat if there were any text adventures with female leads, and I can't think of any off the top of my head.
No, that is a good question. I mean, there are so many.
King's Quest 4 was released 1 year before the Colonel's Bequest.
Ah, there you are.
Thor kind of didn't really define, and in a weird way, it didn't really define who the player was. I mean, the player was you. I don't think.
Neither did Adventure.
No.
That counts. Yeah. I mean, that is a thing. I mean, before we had, like, you see your character, there was a lot of games where you just were someone, but often the games didn't mention if it was a male or female or the name. It was often not really revealed.
A hero is you.
The hero is you, right? But gaming was only a man's domain, wasn't it? So.
I think that's quite interesting. Possibly something for the future, because I think adventure games actually is one of the first things that kind of started tipping the balance there compared to potentially arcade systems. But they've not so much got a chat topic as a sociology study.
So let's see. I have another one. So we had so many Sierra tonight already, so I will skip Police Quest 4. This was another one I picked. But I have another more random, not so known one. I didn't know that this game exists, to be honest, Spycraft. I think it came with the most stupid subtitle ever printed on a box.
That's a reference to the fact that to an idiom that turned up in both British and I think American English, where the work of spies in the Cold War, that the tradecraft was referred to as the Great Game. The whole thing with MI5 and the CIA facing off against the KGB, and it was colloquially referred to as the Great Game, which is an extremely culturally specific linguistic reference.
Okay, that explains a bit. So I will rethink about. I will think about that twice. But I thought in my Germish understanding, this was the worst thing you can put on a box. But okay, you have to have that background. But
you have to already be a spy nerd to get that.
Exactly. So this was in a lot of games I got from someone named John Romero. We maybe heard of that one before. So he sold a few games on eBay. That one was in the box. So I never heard of that game before. I did a bit of research online. It was one of the many FMV games back then, which was quite enjoyable, as I saw on the internet by reviews and so. But what I like about that one is it's a good example. It's written on the box. There's William Colby, former CIA director. There is Oleg Kalugin, former KGB general. So what I like about FMV games is you find that a lot. You have a lot of famous or important people going into the gaming industry somehow in FMV games, because they.
Please tell me Putin did one of these in his day.
So So that is what I like, because you found actors, Hollywood actors, in games that happened before. You found like police, like within Police Quest, you find former detectives or whatsoever taking over a role, designing games, bringing their input and experience into gaming and development of games. I like that. And often, like in Police Quest, the guy who's responsible for it has an appearance in the game as well, in certain points. And so I like that one about FMV games, that you see people who has nothing to do with game development at all, that they show up and do something. I like that a lot. Can't say anything about the game. As said, heard about that like months ago for the first time, so I don't know so much about it, but judged by the pictures, it's like random FMV stuff, interaction limited spy agent stuff. I don't know.
That spy games theme that's been suggested could be fun one day.
Okay. Spycraft.
We've got
And
about.
I'm not sure. I can say John Romero never played it because it's still sealed, so I'm not sure why he has it in his collection. But I guess he never played it. It's don't know.
We've got about 3 minutes left. If anyone has any last-minute show and tell items or anything.
I'm all tapped. It's been a particularly good one, though.
Yeah. I may go ahead and cut the broadcast in, and we'll enter the after show as we talk.
Hey, after show party in the green room.
All the fun stuff happens in the after show. So
Is
I'm
there
going
anything? Sorry, Joe. Is there anything new in the chat or so? Is there someone active? I cannot see that on my iPad. Is there anything?
We've got one person who's active in chat, but they'll still be with us. If there's anyone watching on the main feed, and you can see and in the group, and you can see the link to our actual chat room, come on in and communicate in text if you fancy. You don't have to talk to us. Honest, we won't judge you though.
All right, everybody, we're going to cut it right here, and thanks for another great show. So we'll cut it in 3, 2, 1.